Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel Cobalt Mood. If you're new here, my name is Cobalt and I talk about what it's like to run businesses while struggling with depression. I maybe should say navigating at this point, but you know, every day can be a struggle. What I want to do today is go through what sold over the weekend and talk about my sell-through. I do watch these videos back, so I'm going to go ahead and give some comments throughout on maybe what I would or wouldn't pick up again to help me as I move through this journey. I wanted to give some updates before I get into all of that. So the dogs I have here, by the way, are super great. I have them for another like 7 days. They're lovely. The first time setting them, this stay is like also brilliant because the whole purpose of Rover is to float myself enough to make it through reselling. And I also try to have enough stays to cover my mortgage for the month, and then the little I make on eBay, I take 30% of my payments and I put it towards my bills. So that has been working enough to make it by. But this stay, it's 10 days total. It's actually enough to cover my mortgage, which I think is amazing for like 1 week. And then I have, I think, 1 or 2 more this month. So those will just be able to build my savings, which is really great. Okay, so I managed on Friday, ended up picking up 54 items, and I needed to get 6 days worth or 48 items to be able to make it through the end of the dog stay. And I actually, with the 54 I picked up on Friday and the 34 I picked up on Thursday, I did create a little bit of an overage for myself and have 1 extra day of inventory. And that was great because I did kind of fall into old habits of picking items I could bundle with things that are already listed here to try and, increase the price, which is fine, but I am trying to move away from bundles. So gotta work on that part. Yeah, so there are some in my boxes here to my left, are some extra credit that don't hit the metric, but I already picked them up and they're like, in that $20 amount list price. Also, I think when I'm sourcing, I am just getting what I can and stuffing the trunk of my car. I'm not counting until I get home to see what I picked up. And I think getting 54 items was really only because I took a gamble at the very end of my sourcing route. I had an hour and a half left and I could go left to my like gold mine store. But that one I had been to 2 days prior and I'd already cleaned them out. So I wasn't sure that there would be enough or any there. Or I could go right. I've hit the stores before, but they're really hit or miss. One of them, it was going to take like 25 minutes to get there from my current location. And then the second store was going to take another like 20 minutes from my further location to the second store. So I basically had like 10 to 15 minutes I could spend in each store because most of that hour and a half was taken up by driving. So anyways, it worked out great. The second store is in a rich people neighborhood and their plush is always very clean. But yeah, I needed that full 15 minutes to even get through the section. I was picking blind, but I've been studying and so I know more characters now. I know like what to look for to indicate value, and I ended up comping them once I got home. And I would say about half of them actually met the metric. The other half were still popular characters, but like under what I'm wanting to get. So even though I'm covered for the whole stay, I'm probably going to pay back the store for a few items because I'm not sure all 8 will hit the metric. And so yeah, the rest on top will just be extra credit. The second thing I did this weekend was I looked at my office layout, and I've been toying with the idea of getting another shelf or 2, and I did settle on what I was going to do, which is I am going to move the desk out of this room and into the other area, and that is where I will list. And then I'm going to move my shipping table to where the desk is. I'm going to clear this section, and the black metal shelf will go where the shipping station is, and that'll be my like everything shelf and box shelf, which is what its current job is. And this area, I'm going to add 2 more shelves. So that will be an extra 28 boxes, which is roughly 280 additional listings. So yeah, I'll have 2 here, and then eventually this everything shelf, if I can dwindle it down to not picking up everything items, it will also be a shelf one day to hold an additional 14 boxes. I could also, if I find a way to change the way I'm shipping, the shipping table could also be a shelf, and that could be 14 boxes. So I have room to expand, but I think getting started with 2 additional shelves is really just all I need. And yeah, just move things around to make it work. And I'll probably show the final of that once I build it out, just so, yeah, I like tracking to see how the office changes, even if I move us to the other room to film. All right, so let's dig in now to what sold over the weekend. All right, first up, ended up selling a lot of 3 fugglers. I might have shown them on the channel. One of them is the Joker, this all black fuzzy guy. And this guy kind of reminds me of like Nacho Libre. I don't know who he is, but yeah, I actually was going to remove them from the shop, so I'm glad I left them in there and somebody actually bought it. And the reason I was considering removing them is because while fugglers do sell, none of those really match any sort of theme. Like if I had a Joker and Batman, that would probably sell at like, you know, 40, 50 bucks. But 3 random fugglers, didn't know if anybody would want them, but sometimes it only takes 1. So would I do that lot again? Well, trying to move away from lots, so maybe not. Unless it fell into my lap and I did find like 2 at the same store that were in a matching series, maybe. Okay, so that was the first one. So $34, and it took 38 days to sell. The second one is this really cute marshmallow on a stick from Squishable. And all of these marshmallows actually come off. It's funny because sometimes I find the individual marshmallows at the thrift store, but because I have this item, I know what the end product's supposed to be like, and I'm like, I wonder if this sticks anywhere, but usually not. Yeah, so these 3 marshmallows, $26 is what the person paid, and they took 77 days to sell. So, still decent. I don't know if I'd pick it up again though. It is that kind of like bigger sized item, and I see this and I think about this could be 3 plush or 1 plush, you know? So I just sold this vintage rooster hand puppet from Manhattan Toy Company. Here's the tag, has some writing on it. There's some sold for like around $100 with the keyword Baby Einstein, because apparently it was on that show. But there's nothing about the tag or the item that says Baby Einstein, and I didn't want to deal with potentially getting a policy violation or having somebody return the item and use that as a reason. So I chose not to use that keyword, ended up selling mine for a total of $52, and it took 78 days to sell. Next one is this, I guess you can't see her at all, but this is a doll. She has a hat on. Yeah, the bag is sealed, so I won't open her up. But she's a doll that has a fur coat and a fur rabbit hat. Back when I thought I was going to add dolls into the mix and realized I'll be fine with just plush. Anyways, Madame Alexander doll, ended up selling her for $20. She hit my lowest markdown sale and took 105 days to sell. This was out of that Mitchell and Ness lot I got. Still has the paper inside, has a patch on the side. This guy took 34 days to sell, and I got $25 for it. We have a Build-A-Bear. This one has the football, has the, I forget what these are called. But yeah, this person actually asked if I could just sell her the clothing, the jersey. And normally I wouldn't split items, but I just said, if she pays the price I give her, I will do it. And sure enough, she agreed to $20 for just the jersey. So probably just gonna redonate the bear by itself. Yeah, I mean, it's just an average football bear. I don't imagine this is going for much by itself. So Seahawks actually got $25 for it, including shipping, and it took 8 days to sell. And the only reason I went for this Build-A-Bear was because of the Seahawks. I knew that they won recently, and so I figured their merch might actually sell a little bit better right now. So that's why I picked that one up. Okay, next one. I sold a medium-size Douglas. That is a boxer. This one is considered more of a rare older item, and you know that because the Douglas actually had these tags that were pink for a while instead of that red border that you've seen in some of my other videos. So there wasn't many listed of him. He took 27 days to sell, and I sold him for $128. So awesome sale there. Okay, sold another dog. This is a Basset Hound. I picked this guy up because it was that medium-sized dog. He had what appeared to me a bit of a vintage patch on the inner ear, and also by this brand called Applause. Basically, I associate Applause, especially this kind of like, I kind of see it as like a YMCA logo, with a lot of older plush in the vintage area. And yeah, he had, you know, some of that airbrushed markings. This is actually part of the fur. You know, this kind of notates that it might be in that realistic hound look that a lot of collectors like. There's also some airbrush on the feet as well. Ended up selling this Basset Hound for $46, and it took 17 days to sell. All right. I was not going to include this one for this video because it actually is still pending payment, but I do think it's a great education moment, so that is why I'm including it now. I ended up selling another dog. This is where I feel like the merge of like Rover and reselling comes in, is when I start selling a bunch of dogs and picking up a bunch of dogs. Okay, so this one is also by Douglas. Douglas has its own version of a English Springer Spaniel, but this one was actually a collab with Bass Pro Shop. I ended up selling this guy while still listing the 8 that went alongside him. So he actually sold in 20 minutes. I took an offer for $2 less than my list price. And yeah, just waiting to see if this guy sold. I did price him a bit under market because even though he's still soft, his fur is matted quite a bit. And I just figured that would decrease the value for collectors. And yeah, the fur is supposed to be like nice and long. When it is in that condition, he can sell, you know, between like 70 to as high as like 150. So anyways, yeah, got a quick offer on that, went ahead and accepted it, and we'll just see if they pay. That's kind of the, you know, situation we're in. So, I went ahead and put all of those into AI, and they told me that based off the data, the sell-through for these items on average is 43 days, but I do have some outliers. One being the Springer Spaniel that I sold in 20 minutes, and the Madame Alexandra doll that I sold in 105 days. So if I remove those 2 items and run the numbers again, my average sell-through for this lot is 40 days. So still in line. I think previously last week it was 45 days. Now we're at 40. So onwards and upwards. I really thought when I was pulling these numbers that it was going to be like 60 days, but that just goes to show how bad I am at math. Like, and also like, I think the blind spot that a lot of business owners have is they see some, you know, like Marshmallow, 77 days, Rooster, 78 days. And you're just like, oh man, it's really like dragging the numbers down. But then when you run the average, it's better than you thought. So that's why it's important to know your numbers so you really get the non-emotional view of what your business is doing. So that was that for today. See you guys tomorrow.